welcome to Conspiracize Me. This is episode 4, and now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the uncomfortable, which is assassinations. When it comes to assassinations, obviously nobody sees it coming, and it's usually a prolific person. Usually it's a very extreme type of, I believe this person, I know what they stand for, and I stand for it too, or I don't like this person, and if I ever were to see them, they would know. They would feel very uncomfortable around me. It's a polarizing person, very big in the public eye, and they are certainly known for what they believe. They stand by what they believe. They usually have a very strong spine about them. There's no mistaking this person. When you hear them, you recognize their voice. It comes down to whether you agree with them or not, whether you can stand for them or not. And sometimes they make such headway into society and the culture, and they either start to make changes or the fear of change, and so action is taken upon their lives, and it is essentially stolen from those who stand behind their way of thinking, their way of life, stand behind what they support. It is stealing the life of someone who is leading the charge of a people who greatly appreciate and believe in what that person stands for. That is to say, assassinations are a thievery of someone's life that is making a clear and big impact on society and culture as a whole, potentially changing the way that society runs for decades to come. In order to stop that, their life is taken from them in a surprising fashion. It's typically done in public, in a place that people are shocked and hard to forget. I do want to start off this first assassination look with the very person whose day of commemoration has just passed us here in January, and that is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I will be looking into the conspiracy theory surrounding his death, and if in fact those theories can conspiracize me. Let's go ahead and look at ChatGPT to see what is the conspiracy theory behind Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s death. Alright, and so the question is, what is the conspiracy theory surrounding Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s death, and what is currently the most believed story? The official, most widely accepted story. On April 4th, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. James Earl Ray, a fugitive white criminal, was arrested, extradited from the UK, and in March 1969 pleaded guilty to King's murder to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to 99 years in prison. Ray later recanted his confession, claiming he was a scapegoat in a broader conspiracy, but multiple official investigations, including by the U.S. Department of Justice, have found no credible evidence proving that Ray didn't fire the fatal shot or that the government orchestrated the killing. The accepted historical account is that James Earl Ray shot King, likely acting alone or at least without direct proof of a larger conspiracy. James Earl Ray, apparently later on he said there's something else going on behind the scenes that you guys are missing, and that's what we're here to find out. Main conspiracy theories about King's death. Number 1, government conspiracy, FBI, CIA, local authorities. This is the most well-known alternative theory. Some people believe the FBI, CIA, or other government agencies were involved because of their intense surveillance and harassment of King. Supporters of this idea point to documented hostility toward King and the civil rights movement. King was aggressively monitored, discredited, and blackmailed by the FBI. No solid evidence has ever emerged linking the government to the assassination itself after exhaustive investigations. Isn't the FBI, isn't the CIA part of the government? And now you have the government essentially looking into agencies within itself, apparently exhaustively, into whether or not there's an alternative explanation to Dr. King's assassination. No solid evidence. They just don't see a clear link to King other than James Earl Ray. Number 2, James Earl Ray was a fall guy. Ray himself claimed he acted on behalf of a mysterious figure named Raoul, whom he said supplied the murder weapon and gave orders. The House Select Committee on Assassinations, 1979, said there was a likelihood of a conspiracy, but ultimately found no conclusive proof that Ray was anything other than the killer. So you have this mystery guy named Raoul, and James Earl Ray is just following along. Number 3, Lloyd Jowers civil suit, 1999. Lloyd Jowers Jowers, who owned a restaurant near the Lorraine Motel, claimed he and others, including mafia figures and possibly government agents, conspired to kill King and framed Ray. In a 1999 civil trial, a jury ruled that King's assassination was the result of a conspiracy involving Jowers and others. This was a civil case, not criminal, and has not been accepted as definitive proof by historians or the Justice Department. The U.S. Department of Justice, in 2000, reviewed all major conspiracy claims and found them not credible. Just because the government finds something not credible doesn't mean it certainly is not credible. Multiple official inquiries continue to support Ray as the triggerman, even if some uncertainties remain. The King family, including Coretta Scott King, publicly expressed doubts about Ray's sole responsibility and believed in some form of larger plot. Ray is the only one who took the fall for this. Even though there are other names supplied, even though the FBI cut down at King's reputation, family members such as Coretta saying that she doesn't believe that Ray was the sole person responsible. Who else was involved? All that I'm asking is what planning went into the killing of MLK. I want to know why James Earl Ray found himself in this predicament. Okay, so bear with me because this is going to be a long question. Where was James Earl Ray positioned when he shot Dr. King? How did he get away from the scene? What time of day was the shooting? And how did James Earl Ray find himself in this predicament in the first place? James Earl Ray rented a room in a boarding house across the street from the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, where Dr. King was staying. The building's back faced the motel and provided an unobstructed view of the balcony where King stood. Ray chose a second-floor room with a direct line of sight. On the day of the shooting, he bought a pair of binoculars to watch the area from his room. When Dr. King appeared on the second-floor balcony of the Lorraine Motel, Ray fired the fatal shot from a bathroom window in that room. Investigators concluded from ballistics and physical evidence that this window was the origin of the fatal shot that struck King. The assassination happened at approximately 6:01 early evening. Dr. King was walking and talking with associates when he was struck by a single rifle bullet. Several people witnessed King immediately after he was shot. He was rushed to a nearby hospital but was pronounced dead about an hour later. Immediately after the shot, Ray left the boarding house with a bundle containing the rifle, binoculars, and other belongings. His fingerprints were on these items. He dropped that bundle on the sidewalk just moments after the shot. He got into a white Ford Mustang seen fleeing the area shortly after. Ray drove about 11 hours to Atlanta, abandoned the Mustang, and gradually made his way to Canada. In Toronto, he got a fake Canadian passport, then traveled to London and Lisbon before being arrested at Heathrow Airport on June 8, 1968, over 2 months after the assassination. I wonder if that was the only arrest. How did he get that vehicle? If you could get a fake passport, you have to have some sort of ties. James Earl Ray's path to Memphis wasn't random. He was a career criminal, repeatedly convicted of robberies and prison escapes. This guy is able to flee a walled-in environment. He's able to flee from a murder scene, leave the country with a fake passport, and he's able to hide for 2 months. And the official report is that he did this alone. James Earl Ray was the only person ever criminally charged and convicted for the assassination of Dr. King. Investigations by the FBI, the U.S. Department of Justice, and the House Select Committee on Assassinations all examined allegations of conspiracy, but ultimately they said, we found our guy, that's the only guy. And of course the FBI is part of this investigation when they were also part of the allegations by conspiracy theories. And so the FBI is charging themselves, they're looking into investigating themselves. I mean, what can go wrong? This seems like it's bigger than just Ray. His criminal history before 1968 shows serious but non-homicidal offenses and prison escape, not a pattern of killing. And then he says that he was manipulated by this mystery person called Raul. It kind of seems reasonable that he was not the only person involved. The only reason other people weren't convicted is because not enough evidence was presented. Ray may not even have been the top dog in this, but he's the only one that they could find. Only one person fired the gun. That was the bullet that came from Ray's gun. Ray's not denying that. Who was the planning done by? Seems like some powerful people. So what I have to know is this. What evidence is pointed to suggest that Ray did not act alone? I think any knowledge that has been swept under the rug, obviously it is an abuse of power. It's a tying of the hands of justice by our government that is supposed to protect the people. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who is for the people, and not just black people, people of all color. He was for humanity. For the government not to protect this guy, but to protect themselves. That's fishy. That's wrong. And that is unacceptable of our government. In a civil wrongful death lawsuit, King family versus Lloyd Jowers, a Memphis jury in 1999 heard testimony from more than 70 witnesses and found that Jowers and others, including governmental agencies, were part of a conspiracy to kill Dr. King. The jury's verdict suggested Ray did not act alone and was set up. Civil trials use a lower standard of proof than criminal cases. Okay, this video is a lower standard of proof. ChatGPT is a lower standard of proof. But even with this lower standard of proof, it seems quite clear and obvious that Ray did not act alone, and Dr. Martin Luther King did not get justice for his death. Whether they were inside or outside of the government, there were others involved that did not get caught, and I don't think that's justice. The same evidence presented in the civil trial was later re-examined by the U.S. Department of Justice. This was a miscarriage of justice, and now we have the U.S. Department of Justice concluding the conspiracy claims in the Jowers case were not credible. How about the Department of Justice is not credible? I just want to say this. I won't go as far as to say that Ray did not kill King at all. But I will go as far as to say Ray was selected and implemented into the plan. The 1979 House Select Committee on Assassinations did conclude there was a likelihood of conspiracy in the assassination. The committee explicitly rejected the idea that Ray was an unwitting fall guy manipulated by others. Some people point to background facts, not direct evidence, to suggest a conspiracy. The FBI actively targeted King for years and tried to undermine him politically. There were threats against King's life from racist groups and individuals before the assassination. The sudden removal or absence of certain security personnel around King on the day he was shot. There's something to be said about following your gut. If you get a strong feeling, go with it. But for some reason, don't follow your gut on this one. It smells dirty to me. There is no strong, verified evidence that conclusively proves a co-conspirator, government involvement, or a plot behind Ray himself. Investigators have examined those claims and, to date, have not found them substantiated, because those who have investigated those claims are part of this dirty, nonsense, justice investigation. This is the first episode that I can say I have been conspiracized to believe that James Earl Ray did not act alone. And unfortunately, the Justice Department of our United States of America did not do its job. He was a leader who cared for the people. He was a leader who cared about justice and getting that justice in a peaceful manner. And his life was taken from him. Many people were filled with hope, purpose because of him. Many people saw a brighter future in this country for themselves and their generations to come because of him. And his life was taken. And to make matters worse, the Justice Department decided that they would sweep all allegations under the rug and say to the people, your thoughts and viewpoints on this, although much appreciated, doesn't weigh heavy on our conscience at all. The blood of Dr. Martin Luther King is on the hands of our Justice Department, of any government agency that had their investigative tools looking into it and decided there's nothing here. Well, there is something there, and only one man was given 99 years in prison. The life and memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. will go on beyond 99 years. What he stood for and what he hoped to see, blacks and whites united. They may have killed King, but they didn't kill his vision. And all those who were not part of the plot, but were part of the instigations, part of the threats, ought to be ashamed of themselves. You ought to be ashamed of yourself if you don't see redeemable qualities in the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, despite what you believe about him. So let us remember on Dr. Martin Luther King Day and throughout your lifetime that when you fight for the rights of the people, especially minorities, you're not going to be the most liked person in the room. Not all the time. But is it worth it? Was it worth it for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? I do believe that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would say yes. We still have a chance at a brighter future. Thanks for watching.